Welcome back to Dragon Army Books. My name is Dustin, and this is a very special review for many reasons, and we'll get into that. But I am reviewing Breach of Peace by Daniel Greene. This is the first book in what is planned to be a trilogy of books that is the prequel series to a trilogy of books set in this world that Daniel Greene has created. Now, to be clear, this first book is not a traditional sized book. It is a novella. It's a shorter story that kind of sets the scene, that lets us know about the world and about some of the primary characters and sets the intrigue, but it is far from what I expected going in. For the very few of you that do not know, Daniel Greene is a booktuber. In fact, he's the booktuber. I know that there are a few out there. I'm one of them. Very small, very few people know about me. You're watching this, you know a little bit something about me, but Daniel Greene is the booktuber. He's the one that has been doing it for a good amount of time now. He's found great success there, and now he is transitioning into writing, being an author, and that's incredible. I'm so excited and incredibly jealous. I didn't start BookTube so that then I could get an audience to write and publish for. And I don't think Daniel Greene did that either. He started a BookTube because he likes books and reading, and he also likes writing. That's like me as well. And I plan to write and release stuff in the future. And so I'm jealous, but super excited for him that he's being able to do this. And he did it all in a self-publishing way, which is not the easiest probably. In fact, he's got a whole video, and I'll link that, where he details how he went about it, what he learned, and how you and I can get into self-publishing. So super, super helpful. And when I heard that he was about ready to release his novella, I contacted him and asked if I could get a copy so that I could read it. And he was kind enough to send me a copy, so I have now read it once and listened to it all the way through on audiobook. So I've read through the story twice, and I think I am ready to give a full and honest review. So that's what I intend to do. Like most of my reviews, I'm going to talk about the plot up front, and then I'm going to talk about my feelings about the book. Both of those are going to be spoiler free. And then what I'm going to do different with this video is what I felt that if I were to have released a novella similar to Daniel, that I would want booktubers to do this for me. So I'm going to have one last section at the end that will have some light spoilers. I'll try to keep it as spoiler free as possible, but that will have some light spoilers talking about what my hopes and expectations are for the series as it continues. Having watched a lot of Daniel Greene's content and knowing that he is a massive Sanderson fan like I am, I expected something much more fantastical in the fantasy realm, and that's not what we got here. This story, Breach of Peace, is actually that rare fantasy detective story, borrowing from like the Dresden Files maybe, and then heavily influenced by Sherlock Holmes. Our cast is comprised of 3 inspectors who all work together for the 7th Precinct. You've got Inspector Clyde, who is our primary protagonist. You've got her husband, Samuel, who's also on the force. And then you've got Chapman, who is kind of like the star celebrity of the 7th Precinct. He always solves all the crimes, and he's also a big baby. The 3 are attempting to discover the perpetrators of a gruesome crime that is set out at the beginning of the story, and evidence at first points to a group of rebels that are trying to stab fear into the very heart of the Empire, but then clues are uncovered, and something much more sinister, something much more empire-shaking is afoot. And it's up to these 3 inspectors to discover just what that is. As mentioned, this is not what I expected from Daniel Greene. This is kind of fantasy light, especially up until the close to the very end, and it is kind of detective sleuth heavy, which is fine for me. The story is character driven so far. I would say that is really where Daniel Greene is writing towards, is leaning towards. It's all about these 3 protagonists and this kind of some secondary characters, but while there is plot, while there is a little bit of world building here, you can't expect too much of that because it is a novella after all, and it's really setting the scene and building the tension. The crime isn't solved here in this story. In fact, the intrigue just begins, and So if you're looking for like a nice little package story that's going to tell you everything, going to answer it all, going to give you the reveal at the end of the story, then that's not what you're going to find here. It's really a big setup for the second book, which is going to be a setup for the third book, and this whole thing, again, is going to be a prequel to the mainline series. Quickly, let's talk genre, because you're going to find a few different answers depending on what reviewers you listen to. But this isn't grimdark, this isn't steampunk. I think it's just like a fantasy mystery story. I think that's as simple as I can put it. It really does focus on these characters set in a fantastical world, but man, again, they're not just casting magic left and right. There are some magical creatures and instances. In fact, I've heard Daniel talk about 2 different magic systems that he's going to be exploring. If both of them are revealed here in the story, that is over my head. I think one of them is revealed, but more so it's kind of like a light, that there is magic, that there is something magical, deific going on, but it's not, as far as I know so far, not some hard concrete magic system like maybe we've seen from Sanderson and would expect from Sanderson fans. So don't come in here expecting there to be this elaborate magic system that's being built out and taught in this first book. It's not what you're getting. You're getting a few magical elements, primarily from the antagonist side of things, because all of our 3 characters so far as I know, haven't utilized or used any magic of their own. As far as the characters go, I think I just rank them all 3 separately and down the line. Inspector Clyd, our protagonist, Daniel did really good building her out and making us feel attached. We got enough time with her. I felt like she was a really cool female lead character who I want to see her succeed in many ways. She's broken, she's got her own flaws and problems and things like that, but she's still a great person to follow. Next is Samuel. I like him, but he just didn't really have enough stage time for me to build any rapport with. And then one more step down, maybe Chapman would be a couple steps down. I just thought that his attitude and his behavior was so juvenile. He acted like some middle school bullies that I know. You could tell from the author's point of view that he's a broken and flawed individual, and then that comes out in just this brash bully kind of way, and then he's kind of like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. You know what? Some people are probably gonna like Chapman. I think I like where Daniel seems to be taking him, but I don't know. I'm never for these like insecure bullies. And then when it comes to world building, I thought Daniel did well here, as well as you could expect from a novella. Some people might want more, but I think just the right amount was given for us to kind of get a context for where these events are taking place, and not give us some kind of like laborious explanation or illustration or map that we need to follow. This all takes place, by the way, this entire novella takes place in a single day. And it is a lot of events to shove into one 24-hour, I guess is the time period here, day. But we don't need much more world building outside of what we got. We understand there's an empire. We understand kind of the power system and struggles. We understand kind of the dark, grimy, London-esque feel of things. We understand where we are in modernization and in growth of like weaponry, but we don't get too much, which again, I think the perfect amount of world building here, which I'm sure Daniel plans to build out even more in the coming novels. Finally, when it comes to writing style, I think this is the thing that I'm always iffy about when it comes to self-published novels, and I thought Daniel did well. He doesn't have the most beautiful of prose, but he's not going for that. It's pretty mechanical, it's pretty straight and to the point, but it's done remarkably well. There are a few clunky sentences, a few clunky descriptions, a few words here or there that I would, have chosen something different, but I think what he does is great, and I was not distracted by it. I think that's the thing mainly that comes when it comes to these books. As long as I'm not distracted and I'm able to keep going through the story, then I see no problem with that. When it comes to the audiobooks, you get something entirely different here, because he actually had Michael Kramer and Kate Redding read his story, which is amazing, and for me would be absolutely intimidating to ask these two audiobook narrating legends to read my story. It's primarily Kate because we are Inspector Clid. That's the protagonist. That's the primary POV. We do get a little bit of Michael Kramer, not enough, but Kate Redding does incredible. I'm just very disappointed, Daniel, that you had me listen to Kate Redding say extraordinary erection. With all of that being said, I would most certainly encourage you to read it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I think that Daniel Greene has a very creative mind. He's got enough in his probably repertoire from like reading and understanding and reviewing and talking to other fantasy writers that he is going to give us a great story. I'm excited to read more in this series. And now there are going to be some spoilers ahead. So if you haven't read or you don't want to be spoiled, go ahead and stop the video and may God be with you. All right, Daniel, Chapman's not dead. Obviously, Chapman's not dead. You're not going to let him die off screen. And so it's going to be very interesting where you're wanting to take him and how you're going to bring him back into the story. He's obviously polluted by this, whatever this thing is. And so he's going to be the superpowered beast that Clid, I assume, is going to have to calm down and bring back towards humanity. It'll be very interesting to see where you take Chapman. And if he is dead and you gave him an off-screen death, then screw you. That's on you. Now, I wonder what you're planning on doing with Samuel. I do believe that he's dead, unless you're going to have some kind of resurrection type situation go on. I think he's dead, but he died early, not even in the last chapters. So you had to have a reason for that. And I would assume it's going to be for Clid, like how that's going to impact her, how that's going to cause her growth as a character. I hope that you deal with that and Clid deals with that so that she becomes maybe more hardened, or I don't know, in some way maybe it makes her more compassionate. I don't know, but something is going to have to happen within Clid because of the passing of her husband. Maybe it's her drive to solve this crime now, or to get revenge. I don't know, but I do think that Samuel's death is a little weak because we don't get their relationship enough to be like, oh no, her husband died. You know, like it's sad because her husband died, but we don't have enough there to feel so mournful. So I know you're not just trying to pull on our heartstrings. You're doing it for other reasons, or so I hope. And then I'm like, man, we met a few characters, the 3, right? Which you've already killed off 1.5. And then we've got other cast of characters, but listen, Daniel, the majority of them are dead now, right? Like you killed Sam, you killed Mother Christie, who I was kind of invested in, you killed Captain Williams, who I was invested in. Brev is alive. Is Brev gonna be a character that shows up some more? Like who is going to be like Smits? I don't want to call him what Chapman calls him, but like who is still left alive that you're gonna bring back around? It can't just be Inspector Clid, right? We've got to care about some other guys and girls too. Who? I'm excited to see these other abominations. I believe that in the story you mentioned there's at least 2 others. So it's right. I think it was in a note that was found or something saying there was 2 successes, something like that. I'm interested in seeing those show up because those are going to be some scary antagonists, right? Some scary villains or scary opposition that Clid or whoever else is going to have to face. So I'm super interested in that. And then seeing more about this Anointed and Chosen. I believe that you said one of the magic systems is the Anointed. So there's something magical here. Of course, I know, again, deific, there's some kind of power that this Anointed has that makes it almost impenetrable, impervious. Take multiple bullet shots. I'm ready for them to die. So it'll be nice. What do we do? Chop off their heads, throw water on them, just tell us what we got to do and we'll kill them. And last, Daniel, if you're watching this, I'm interested in that last chapter. I actually found myself liking it. It made me think of some of those Stormlight Archive interludes where you get a character that wasn't a part of the story or hasn't been a part of the story and you just get a little glimpse into that. I wonder though if we're going to see Joch again. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Joch? I would love to, or is that just a one-off to kind of show us, to just make us end on this eerie note? I would love to hear more about Joch. Maybe see him rise up, be a part of the rebellion. I don't know, but it would be cool to find out more about that story. That's some of my thoughts. That's some of my feelings, some of my hopes and expectations for the future of the story. I know you've got some great things planned, Daniel, and I'm talking to you like, hey, Daniel, thanks for watching this video. Thank you for letting me have an early access to the story. And for those of you that are Daniel Greene fans, now Breach of Peace fans, and the rest of this series. Let's chat. Don't put spoilers down in the comments below, but please do let me know what your thoughts are on Breach of Peace below. Would love to know your thoughts. Daniel, thank you for an ARC. Loved reading it twice already and looking forward to reading more. As always, thank you so much for watching and liking this video. If you haven't yet, click subscribe, join the Dragon Army. We'll see you in the next one.